Hello, and welcome to the OSC webinar on the 2022 Risk Assessment Questionnaire. My name is Daniel Brown, and I'm an accountant in the Compliance and Registrant Regulation branch of the Ontario Securities Commission. Joining me as presenters today are two of my colleagues from CRR. Eugenie Chung is an accountant in the Portfolio Manager team, and Susan Pollock is a senior accountant on the Exempt Market Dealer team. Before we begin, here is our standard disclaimer for all presentations. This is the agenda for today. After a brief introduction, we'll highlight some key information about the 2022 questionnaire and illustrate how to navigate through the questionnaire. Next, we'll talk about some common questions we've received in the past from registrants in each of the 4 sections of the questionnaire. We'll walk through some examples and highlight some minor changes over the 2020 questionnaire. Part 4 is a summary of the resources that we've prepared to assist you in completing the questionnaire. We plan to have a question and answer session at the last part of the webinar. Questions can be submitted throughout this webinar using the GoToWebinar control panel. When submitting a question, please include the specific section of the questionnaire and the specific question. We will take a brief 5-minute break before starting the Q&A session to allow attendees to submit additional questions. Please submit your questions during the webinar so that the presenters have more time to consider and formulate a response. The information collected through the questionnaire will be used to support the OSC's oversight activities and evidence-based decision-making. This section of the presentation covers some key information and how to navigate the questionnaire. You will probably be very happy to note that there have not been significant changes to the questionnaire this year over the 2020 questionnaire. Here are some of the things that we've kept the same as the 2020 questionnaire. We have continued to pre-populate certain non-financial questions in the questionnaire with the firm's response to the previous questionnaire. In this case, this is the 2020 questionnaire. The questions that are pre-populated this year are the same questions which were pre-populated in 2020. Firms should review the pre-populated responses and, where necessary, make changes when the response no longer accurately describes the firm's situation or practices. Firms should pay particular attention to information pre-populated in comment boxes and the final feedback box. We've kept in place the additional security measures which require an OCTA account in order to access your firm's questionnaire. As part of this webinar, I will walk through this process and provide a step-by-step guide. I'm going to state here and then again later in the presentation that if your firm created an OCTA account in order to access its 2020 questionnaire, there is no need for you to find or remember your old account password. All old accounts were removed from our system, and so new accounts will need to be created. Finally, we continue to require the firm's UDP certify each section of the respective questionnaire by clicking the appropriate tick boxes. So here are some things that are different this year. So although the process to create your OCTA account and access your firm's questionnaire is substantially similar to 2020, the firm's CCO and now its UDP must create their own separate accounts in the OCTA system. This is different from in 2020, where only the firm's CCO was able to create an account. The UDP account is now created to facilitate review of the forms by the UDP and also to allow a separate login to allow the UDP to certify each section of the respective questionnaire. If the firm's CCO and UDP is the same individual, then only one OCTA account is required. So a few questions were modified this year. Probably the largest change was the addition of a new question on sub-custodians. This question was added as question F4B on the investment fund manager form, with the previous question F4B being moved to F4C, so part C. Additionally, there were some changes to question P2 in the portfolio manager section on the types of securities held by your clients to add an additional asset class and allow for entering of negative percentages to reflect short positions. Both of these changes will be covered in more detail as we go through the webinar. The information to be reported in the questionnaire is for the periods ended December 31st, 2020 and December 31st, 2021. June 15th, 2022 is the deadline to submit all sections of the questionnaire. The two URLs listed on this slide direct you to the FAQ and user guide, as well as the user guide to Okta account registration and authentication. Both of these documents include step-by-step instructions for many aspects of the questionnaire. We strongly recommend that you review both the FAQ and user guide, as well as the user guide to Okta account registration and authentication before you begin completing the questionnaire, as it will assist you with knowing what to expect. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to walk through a step-by-step guide on how to create your Okta account. This process is substantially similar to 2020, with the only notable change being that now both the CCO and UDP need to create separate Okta accounts. I'm going to stress again here that if your firm created an Okta account in order to access its 2020 questionnaire, there is no need to find or remember your old account password. All old accounts were removed from our system, and so new accounts will need to be created. Both your firm's UDP and CCO should have received an email on May 4th, 2020, titled OSC 2022 Risk Assessment Questionnaire. This email would have included a lot of information about the questionnaire, as well as the two specific links shown on this slide. These are general links and not unique to the firm. The first URL will take you to the Okta account registration page. This is where you would create your Okta account, register the account to your email address, set up your account password, and verify your email. Once your account has been fully set up, you would then go to the second URL, which would take you to the login screen where you would use your Okta account credentials that you had just created to access your firm's 2022 questionnaire. So if you click that first URL, it will take you to the Okta account registration page shown here. On the registration window, enter your first name, last name, and email address. After entering this information, click the Sign Up button. The CCO or UDP email address that you are entering here should be the same email address your firm has reported on the National Registration Database. If you're using a different email address, you will encounter an issue when you attempt to access your firm's questionnaire, but I'll cover that in more detail later in the webinar. Here is where you will set up the security methods for your account. You will verify your account email address, create your account password, and set up a security question. The security question is now a mandatory part of the account setup process, which will allow you to reset your account password if you've forgotten it. So let's start with the first step to verify your email address. Click the Setup button under Email. After clicking the Setup button, a verification email will be sent to the email you entered on the first page. The verification email would be an automated email from noreply@okta.com, with the subject line being Confirm your email address. Click on the Verify email address button in the email you just received. If you'd prefer, you can also enter manually the 6-digit code which accompanied this email, but clicking the Verify email address button is easier. Please note that this link to verify your email address expires after 30 minutes, and so ensure that you have your email readily available. If you don't see the verification email within a couple of minutes, please check your spam or junk folder. If the link expires before you click on the Verify email address button, you will need to contact the Compliance Survey mailbox for assistance. When emailing the Compliance Survey mailbox, please include your name, your firm's name, in addition to a brief description of the issue that you are encountering. So if you receive the verification email and you're able to click the Verify email address button, the button will take you to the screen shown here, where you are being asked to prompt to validate that you are trying to sign into Okta. Click the Yes, It's Me button. After clicking this button, the screen where you are asked to set up your security methods will update, and the Setup email option will no longer be there. Click the Setup button under the Password heading. So this is the second security method. On this screen, you will need to enter a password, and you'll enter it twice. Please keep in mind the complexity requirements shown here. Once you've set up your password, click the Setup button below the security question. This is the last security method that needs to be set up. Select the security question from the list, enter your answer, and click the Verify button. You should now be logged into your Okta account and see the dashboard shown here. This message, where it says add apps to your launcher, please contact your admin for assistance, is normal and to be expected. It is the default for this software. It is normal to see this as the 2022 questionnaire, similar to the 2020 questionnaire, is accessed through clicking the second URL link in the email you received on May 4th. So there is no application that you need to download or install. Alternatively, we have put the second URL link in the bottom left corner of this dashboard. So if you prefer, you can just click that link there where it says support and help. Here again is the second link, which you would have received in the May 4th, 2022 email. If everything is set up properly, once you click this link and sign into the Okta account using the credentials you just created, you'll be able to select your firm as shown on the bottom of this slide. So this was an area of confusion in 2020, and so we're going to highlight specifically as part of this webinar. So if you log in to Okta using the second URL link and you see this message, it means that your email address does not match the email address shown for your firm's CCO or UDP on the National Registration Database. It is the firm's responsibility to ensure that the email addresses on the National Registration Database are accurate and up to date. So some common causes for seeing this message is that there may be a spelling mistake in the email address that you have on the National Registration Database, or the firm recently changed their email address domain and did not update the National Registration Database, so changing from a .com to a .net. We would have been using the email address on the National Registration Database, both the CCOs and the UDPs, for the 2022 Risk Assessment Questionnaire Advance Notice email blast, which was sent on Tuesday, February 15th, and the May 4th email blast. As part of this process, we have been proactively updating and investigating any email bounce backs we received. So it is hopefully unlikely that there is an incorrect or spelling mistake in the email address on the National Registration Database. Hopefully we've rectified any of those types of issues at this point. Another reason that you may be seeing this screen is if there was a recent employment change of either the CCO or UDP. As part of the Risk Assessment Questionnaire process, we pull a list of all CCO and UDP email addresses in the National Registration Database to set up the Okta accounts in our system. Our IT group requires some lead time to complete this process, and so the email addresses that we would have pulled from the National Registration Database would have been in April. So if there was a recent, as in mid to end of April, change in the firm's CCO or UDP, we would not have that information captured. And so regardless of what the cause, if you are seeing this screen, you will need to contact the Compliance Survey mailbox to assist you with fixing this issue. And the reason that you're seeing this screen is that the email address that you are using to create your Okta account does not match what we have on the National Registration Database. So we're now going to run through the process to reset your account password. So navigate to the 2022 RAC sign-in page, click the Need Help Signing In button, and then click the Forgotten Password button. On this page, you will need to enter the email address you used to create your Okta account and click the Reset via Email button. An email with reset instructions will be sent to your email. Navigate to the email and open the Reset Password email from Okta and click the Reset Password button. Please note that this link expires after 30 minutes to ensure that you have your email readily available. If you don't see the reset email within a few minutes, please check your junk or spam folder. You will then be prompted to provide the answer to your security question, the security question that you were required to set up as part of the account setup process. You will then be able to set up a new Okta account password. If you have forgotten your Okta account password and you've forgotten the answer to your security question, then you will need to email the Compliance Survey mailbox for assistance. These next slides will focus on navigating the questionnaire and highlight some of its functionality. Since the questionnaire is customized to your firm's registration categories, it is important for you to review the registration categories listed on your firm's homepage. If there are any discrepancies, please contact us immediately. If the information is correct, please follow the instructions and click on the link to verify the validity of the information. This slide shows the toolbar and the icons that are currently on it. The toolbar's icons and buttons function the same as the 2020 questionnaire. The help icon on each page of the questionnaire gives you access to a help page dedicated to the section of the questionnaire that you have open. If you are in the general section, like noted here, clicking this button will take you to the help page for the general section. The FAQ and user guide icon gives you access to the guide we've prepared. The FAQ provides answers to some questions, and the user guide provides step-by-step instructions for many aspects of the questionnaire. The other icons are fairly self-explanatory, and so I won't cover them in any detail. All of the web browsers listed on this page are supported. However, Google Chrome is the recommended browser. Please be aware that after 2 hours of inactivity, the questionnaire session will expire, and any unsaved data will be lost. The questionnaire will not close by itself after 2 hours of inactivity. It will stay open, and you will still be able to see the page that you were working on hours ago. It is only when you click the Save button to reestablish the connection to our server will a notification appear stating that your session has expired. If you have not worked on the questionnaire for some time, try to save before you start working again. We strongly encourage you to save frequently. You will notice that some parts of the questionnaire are highlighted in yellow. Fields highlighted in yellow are considered mandatory fields, and you will not be able to submit the questionnaire until all mandatory fields have been completed with valid information. Sometimes a field can turn mandatory based on a selection you've made. For example, in the illustration, the firm has selected option G, Other. Provide details in the comment box below. The comment box below has now become a mandatory field. As you select your answers or enter information into the questionnaire, an error message may appear indicating that something is incorrect. The system actively checks if your response matches the logic associated with that question. If the response does not comply with the associated logic of the question, then an error message will appear. The error message will indicate what values are permitted. In the illustration, it shows that letters were entered into a field which requires a numerical response. It is very important that you save your questionnaire frequently. Save at least every 15 minutes to avoid losing the information that you've entered. If the information is saved successfully on our secure server, you will see the same message illustrated on this slide. You will then have the option to continue and go back to the home page or log out and end your session. When you attempt to navigate between pages of the questionnaire by either clicking the next, previous, or using the go to page functionality, if there is incomplete or invalid text, an error message as illustrated on this slide will appear. You may select OK to continue navigating away or cancel and stay on the current page. Before attempting to submit your questionnaire, please save your responses. This is important to avoid any data loss during the submission process. Make sure that you're satisfied with your responses before submitting a section of your questionnaire, as once the section has been submitted, you can no longer make any changes. You will also want to make sure that the firm's UDP has reviewed the questionnaire and click the corresponding tick boxes on the first page of the section prior to submitting that section of the questionnaire. Once you're satisfied with your responses, you can click the Submit button, which is located on the last page of each section of the questionnaire. Each section of the questionnaire will need to be submitted separately. This error message is one that you would receive after attempting to submit your questionnaire unsuccessfully. It indicates that one or more fields in the section have not been completed correctly. Once you click OK, the questionnaire will take you directly to the first page. There is a question which has invalid or missing information. Once you have fixed the response, you can try submitting the questionnaire again. There are more examples of error messages in the FAQ and user guide if you want to know what they mean. Once you have successfully submitted a section of the questionnaire, you will be directed to a confirmation page as illustrated on this slide. This may take a few minutes, particularly when the server is busy, like on June 15th, 2022, the last day to submit the questionnaire. Do not close your web browser until you are directed to this confirmation page. If you receive an error message regarding your submission, try closing the browser and logging in again to access the home page. This may fix the problem in most cases, and you can attempt to resubmit the questionnaire. The next part of this webinar covers some common questions received from registrants in the past in each of the 4 sections of the questionnaire. We'll also walk through some examples and highlight some minor changes over the 2020 questionnaire. I'll start by covering the investment fund manager section. So the first question we'll be looking at is question F1, assets under management. This question asks the firm to provide the assets under management where the firm is the investment fund manager. If the firm has a fund-of-fund structure, the AUM should only be counted once. For example, and as illustrated on this slide, if the top fund has an AUM of $50, which is 100% invested in the bottom fund, which has an AUM of $100, and the firm is the IFM for both funds, then the firm should report a total of 2 funds and AUM of $100. Question F3 on performance returns. If the firm is the investment fund manager of any prospectus qualified funds which have at least a full year of performance, then the firm is required to report the performance returns in question F3. Performance returns should be reported net of fees. Please report this information at the fund level or fund series level. If the firm is reporting performance returns at the fund series level, please use the series that has the largest AUM. Question F4A, custodial information. When answering question F4A on custodial information, it is important for the firm to include the full legal name of the custodian. Without the full legal name, we may not know which entity among a number of affiliated entities is the actual custodian. The total AUM reported in this question should match the total AUM reported in question F1, if there are no fund-of-fund structures. Up to 20 rows can be added to this question by clicking the Add Row button. If the firm requires more than 20 rows, then that information should be entered in the final feedback box on the last page of the IFM section. This question, F4B, requesting sub-custodian information, is new this year. We thought it would be prudent to cover this as part of the webinar, and we will walk through an example. We are asking the firm provide the requested information for each sub-custodian that your custodian or custodians utilize to hold assets of your investment funds as at December 31st, 2021. Up to 20 sub-custodians can be added by clicking the Add Row button. We are asking that you aggregate assets held by each sub-custodian into a single row if the same sub-custodian is used by multiple custodians. Each sub-custodian should therefore be listed only once in the table. If there are more than 20 sub-custodians, click the checkbox and enter the additional information in the comment box at the bottom of this question. Do not fill out this table for any sub-custodians with which sub-custody agreements may exist, but no assets are custodied with the sub-custodian as at December 31st, 2021. We are requesting sub-custodian information this year to allow us to better understand where client assets are ultimately being held. You should be aware if an employed custodian is using sub-custodians to hold assets of your investment funds. If you are unaware of the specific amount of assets held with each sub-custodian, this information should be obtainable from your custodian. This question asks you to aggregate the amount of assets held by each sub-custodian for funds where you act as the investment fund manager. This means that this question does not attempt to avoid double counting, and so if your firm has a fund-of-fund structure where they are the investment fund manager of the top fund and the bottom fund, the AUM reported in this question may not match the AUM you reported in question F1 or question F4A. Here is the example. If top fund has an AUM of $50 and is sub-custodied at ABC Custody Inc. and is 100% invested in bottom fund, which has an AUM of $100, which is sub-custodied at ABC Custody Inc. and $50 sub-custodied at XYZ Custody Inc., you should report AUM of $100 at ABC Custody Inc. and $50 at XYZ Custody Inc. Here is that example illustrated on this slide. Please note that the AUM reported in this question may differ from the AUM reported in question F1 and question F4A. Question F17 on fund terminations and question F18 on fund mergers have similar functionality. Up to 15 rows can be added to these questions by clicking the Add Row to A and B button. If the firm requires more than 15 rows, then that information should be entered into the final feedback box on the last page of the IFM section. Both questions F17 and F18 have an auto-sum functionality. Question F19 asks the firm to report net asset value errors which have occurred in the past 12 months ending December 31st, 2021. So here is an example. An incident occurred that affects the value of a fund over a 5-day period. The fund has 3 classes of security holders and the NAV is struck daily. The firm would report 1 NAV error and 15 restatements of NAV, along with any amount reimbursed to the investors and any amount reimbursed to the funds. I'm now going to turn it over to my colleague, Eugenie Chung, who will cover some common questions relating to the general and portfolio manager sections of the questionnaire.
Thanks, Dan. I will now go through a few common questions we have received in the past on how to fill in the various sections of the questionnaire. We'll then move on to common questions relating to the general section, and lastly, common questions relating to the portfolio manager and restricted portfolio manager section of the questionnaire. The questionnaire contains various sections for registrants to fill in. All registrants must complete the general section, and registrants should only complete other sections of the questionnaire for the categories of which your firm is registered in. The slide here shows some general questions received for the overall questionnaire. First question: is there a difference in how I should respond to questions in the general section compared to the other sections? The answer is yes. Responses to questions in the general section should reflect all of the firm's business activities. For example, you should include all referral arrangements in the general section, regardless of the services you provide to your referred client. And responses to the other sections should reflect only the activities the firm conducts in each registration category. So for example, the investment fund manager section should include only the activities the firm conducts as an IFM. The second question: which time period should I apply when responding to the questions? You'll find that most of the questions specify the time period you should use. If a question does not specify a time period, you should provide information as at December 31, 2021, or for the year ended December 31, 2021. Third question: how do I respond to the questionnaire in these various scenarios? Scenario 1: my firm is only recently registered in at least one or all registration categories. In this case, some questions may not be relevant to your firm's operations given the circumstances. Registrants are to complete the questions to the best of your abilities. If necessary, answer questions as not applicable or zero, and provide comments to explain that you are a new registrant and the reason why your response is not applicable or zero in the comment boxes provided in each question. Further explanations may be provided in the final feedback comment box located on the last page of each section of the questionnaire. Scenario 2: there is no longer any activity at my firm or reliance on a particular registration category, and I have not applied to surrender registration. Registrants are still required to complete the questionnaire, including the general section and other sections relating to the specific registration categories of your firm to the best of your abilities. Similar to scenario 1, answer questions as not applicable or zero, and provide comments to explain that you are no longer providing services in reliance on the registration category or that you are a dormant registrant. Please also include an explanation as to why you are continuing to maintain registration in Ontario in the relevant registration categories. In scenario 3, my business model does not fit with the type of questions being asked. So similar to the first two scenarios, you are still required to complete the questionnaire. Answer the questions to the best of your abilities and use the comment boxes to provide more information. These are some questions we've received that deal with firms that are located outside of Ontario. All firms that are registered with the OSC must complete the questionnaire. If your firm is registered with the OSC but located outside of Canada, fill in the general section based on your worldwide activities. However, for the other sections relating to the firm's specific registration category, respond to the questions based only on your Canadian operations. If your firm is located in Canada, but your principal regulator is another provincial regulator, you should include all of the firm's operations when responding to all sections of the questionnaire. Lastly, if your firm is also registered with both the OSC and one of the SROs, such as the MFDA, include information on your firm's operations that fall under your SRO membership when answering the general section. This is because response for the general section should be at the firm level. However, for the other sections relating to the firm's specific registration category, do not include your firm's operations that fall under your SRO membership. As a friendly reminder, the dealer section of the questionnaire is for the exempt market dealers and not the investment dealers or mutual fund dealers. We will now move on to questions from the general section of the questionnaire. One of the questions in the general section asks firms to provide information about arrangements which the firm either receives or pays a referral fee as at December 31, 2021. If you completed the 2020 questionnaire, this question will be partially pre-populated with information you provided in 2020. Each referral arrangement listed from 2020 will be partially pre-populated in the 2022 questionnaire. You should ensure that each pre-populated referral arrangement is still accurate. It is important to note that if the referral arrangement relates to more than 10 individuals at the referrer, information on the other individuals must be completed on the spreadsheet provided within the question. The percentage of the referral fee paid to the referrer is also pre-populated. Firms should ensure that this information continues to be accurate. For example, if you renegotiated the referral fee with the referring firm or the individual, this percentage information may not be accurate anymore. This slide shows the question asked of firms relating to the referral arrangement. In particular, Part B of the question asks if you have any referral arrangements under which you pay a referral fee as at December 31, 2021. So if your firm has these referral arrangements, there are two ways to provide the information, depending on if you have more or less than 100 of such referral arrangements in place. If you have 100 or less, select B. If you have more than 100, select C. You'll be required to complete the table shown on this slide for each of the first 100 referral arrangements. As mentioned, this table may be partially pre-populated with information from 2020. Add any new arrangements that you have entered into since the 2020 questionnaire, or all of your firm's referral arrangements if it is not pre-populated. Also remove any arrangements that have since been terminated. We would like to highlight to registrants that there is a yellow and red reminder message at the top right corner of each arrangement table to remind firms to fill in all the fields that are highlighted in yellow. Given the length of the table, please ensure to scroll down the page to see all the questions in the table. If you have more than 100 referral arrangements, complete information about the first 100 arrangements in the table as shown in the previous slide. For the remaining arrangements, provide the relevant information by completing a spreadsheet which you can obtain from the link found within question G7, as shown on this slide. Simply click on the link provided to download the spreadsheet for you to fill in. Once the spreadsheet is complete, you may attach it to the response by clicking on the icon with the paperclip. This is a similar process as attaching a document to an email. Question G8 of the general section asks registrants to provide information about the arrangements under which your firm pays a finder's fee, solicitation fee, or a similar fee as at December 31, 2021. The form provides a definition of finder as an individual or company who identifies or solicits potential purchases of securities. A common question asked by registrants is, what is the difference between a referral arrangement and an arrangement in which a finder's fee is paid? Finder's fees and referral fees are often used interchangeably by the industry. Referral arrangements and referral fees are defined in Section 13.7 of National Instrument 31-103. Guidance on finder's fees and finder's arrangements can be found in two CRR annual reports. The 2019 annual report, or the OSC Staff Notice 33750, contains a section with the heading Activities of Finders in the Context of Private Placements and Prospectus Offerings. The 2014 annual report, or the OSC Staff Notice 33745, contains a section with the heading Referral Arrangements and Finders. We recommend registrants to refer to these sources to determine whether the arrangement is a finder's arrangement. So similar to the referral arrangement question of G7, question G8 will also be partially pre-populated with information provided from the 2020 questionnaire if you completed that questionnaire. Each finder's arrangement listed from 2020 will be partially pre-populated in this year's questionnaire. Firms should ensure that each pre-populated information is still accurate. It is important to note that if the finder arrangement relates to more than 10 individuals at the finder, information on the other individuals must be provided on the spreadsheets. The percentage of the finder fee paid to the finder is also pre-populated. Again, you should ensure that this information continues to be accurate, particularly if the fee with the finder has since been renegotiated. The slide here shows the table that must be completed for each finder's arrangement. Add any new arrangements that you have entered into since the 2020 questionnaire or all of your firm's finder's arrangements if it is not pre-populated. Also remove any arrangements that have since been terminated. Similar to question G7, there is a yellow and red reminder message at the top right corner of each table to remind firms to fill in all the fields that are highlighted in yellow. Given the length of the table, please ensure to scroll down the page to see all the questions in the table. This concludes our common questions relating to the general section of the questionnaire. We will now move on to the common questions for the Portfolio Manager and Restricted Portfolio Manager section, or the PM section, of the questionnaire. Registrants often ask, What is the difference between advising activity and dealing activity, and how do I report each type of activity? Where the firm has entered into an advisory agreement or an investment management agreement with the clients to provide advisory services to them, this is generally considered advising activity. Registrant should include information about its advising activity in the PM section of the questionnaire. An activity where the firm is selling, distributing, or trading exempt market products to clients that do not have an advisory agreement or an investment management agreement with the firm is more likely to be dealing activity. Registrant should include information about its dealing activity in the exempt market dealer and restricted dealer section of the questionnaire. Question P1 of the PM section asks registrants to provide information about its assets under management, or AUM, for its Canadian advisory services as of December 31, 2021 and December 31 of 2020. A firm with its principal regulator in Canada is to provide the AUM of all its clients. A firm with its principal office outside of Canada is to provide the AUM for only its Canadian clients. The question asks registrants to separate the AUM by type of client that the firm has. Include individual clients in row A, institutions in row B, and investment funds where your firm is both the PM and the IFM in row C. As defined in the form, individual clients are natural persons and their personal holding companies, foundations, or trusts. Institutional clients are non-individual clients, such as third-party investment funds, where your firm is the PM to the funds, pension plans, corporations, university endowments, charitable organizations, or any other type of client that is not an individual. Investment funds that you act as a sub-advisor for should be included in row B. In some cases, PMs may invest their managed account clients in investment funds the PM also manages. To avoid double counting, include the information in either row A or row B, depending on the nature of the managed account client. This should not be included in row C. Further explanations are provided within row C of the question. The following slides will provide some examples to further illustrate this case. Example 1. If you have AUM of $1 million from individual managed account clients and $1 million from institutional managed account clients, and both are invested in your proprietary investment funds, enter $1 million in row A for individuals, $1 million in row B for institutions, and 0 in row C for investment funds. Example 2. If you have AUM of $2 million invested in your proprietary investment funds, but units of the funds are distributed by third parties or by you acting as an exempt market dealer, enter $2 million in row C for investment funds and 0 in row A and row B. There are additional examples in the help pages of the PM section that you may refer to. Part of question P2 asks firms to provide the approximate percentage of total AUM of each applicable investment product. If the investment is in a fund managed by your firm, specify the underlying types of securities held within the investment fund, such as equities or fixed income. If the investment is in a fund managed by another party, specify the type of fund it is, such as prospective qualified funds or exchange traded funds. We would like to take this opportunity to highlight two new aspects in question P2 this year. There is a row for crypto investment product information for firms to include, if applicable. Crypto includes the crypto assets that are securities, security tokens, or instruments or contracts for the purchase, sale, or delivery of crypto assets. If you invest your clients in exchange-traded or publicly available investment products that hold an exchange-traded crypto fund, specify the underlying exchange-traded crypto fund held as crypto. For example, if you invest your clients in a crypto ETF, include the information in the row crypto rather than the row exchange-traded funds. Question P2 also allows for firms to include information on short positions in securities if that is applicable to your firm. If your investment strategy for your clients includes short positions in investment products, report the short positions by entering in negative values. Question P5 of the PM section asks firms if they are actively involved in the management of the companies they invest in for their clients. When answering this question, you should consider the activities of your registered individuals and your firm's officers, directors, employees, and permitted individuals. Question P6 asks registrants on the residency of its clients by providing the number of clients the firm has in each jurisdiction. When identifying the number of clients, provide the number of clients that the firm has, not the number of accounts or the number of client households it has. To help illustrate this, here is an example. The firm manages accounts for two individuals that are spouses. Both individuals have an unregistered account and an RRSP account, and both share a joint account and an account related to their holding company. In this scenario, the firm should reflect the client relationship with the two individuals as two clients in the relevant jurisdiction. Where your firm advises a fund, do not include the underlying clients in the fund unless you have an advisory agreement or a signed investment management agreement with those underlying clients. Here's another example. A firm manages a fund where there are 10 underlying clients. The firm does not have signed investment management agreements with any of the underlying clients. In this case, the firm should reflect the client relationship with the fund only, as one client in the relevant jurisdiction. Refer to additional examples in the help pages of the PM section. Another common question we get is relating to question P7 of the PM section, where registrants are asked to provide the percentage of individual clients that are 60 years or older as at December 31, 2021. Individual client definition here is the same as described in question P1 that says, individual clients include natural persons and their personal holding companies, foundations, or trusts. If a client has several different holding companies, foundations, or trusts, the firm should count that client relationship once when determining the percentage of clients 60 years or older. To illustrate an example, suppose the firm has an individual client who is 65 years old. The client has an unregistered account, an account for a holding company, and an account for a family trust. The client relationship should be counted as one in both the numerator and the denominator when the firm calculates the percentage. The slide relates to question P9, which asks registrants to provide information for the custodian used by the firm's managed account clients to hold assets in their investment portfolios as at December 31, 2021. You are still required to provide custodian information if your clients choose their own custodians. To avoid double counting, do not include the custodian information for the investment funds that you manage. This information is collected in the IFM section of the questionnaire. We remind firms that it is important to include the full legal name of the custodian in your response. Note that the table in this question, as shown on the slide, allows input of information for up to 20 custodians. If your firm's clients use more than 20 custodians, provide the same information for the additional custodians in the final feedback comment box located on the last page of the PM section. One of the questions you have to answer for each custodian you list is the custodian functionally independent from your firm? Listed on the slide are some scenarios where a custodian would not be considered to be functionally independent from your firm. So if your firm and the custodian share the same mind and management, such that your firm and the custodian would not reasonably be considered to be operating independently, or the custodial activities are performed by the personnel that are not separate from or are unable to act independently from personnel of your firm, or there is a lack of systems and controls to ensure the functional independence of personnel performing the custodial function. This concludes the common questions relating to the PM section. I will now pass it on to Susan to go over common questions relating to the exempt market dealer and restricted dealer section of the questionnaire.
Thank you, Eugenie. So the last section of the questionnaire is dedicated to firms registered as exempt market dealers and restricted dealers. Many firms are also registered in other categories, such as the portfolio manager category. But for this section of the questionnaire, we would like information only about the firm's dealing activity. General dealing activities are described in the first question and often include distributing exempt products to clients. You will see that certain questions have applicable time ranges, such as question 3, which asks for the amount of capital raised for issuers during the 2 years ended December 31st, 2021. Other questions do not have a specific date range, such as question 16, which asks about the firm's Know Your Client process. Your response to this type of question should reflect the firm's current processes and procedures. And all information should be actual, not based on some kind of future plans that the firm might have. Questions 2 and 3 require the firm to provide information about the number of its investor clients during the 2 years ended December 31st, 2021. Generally, the number of clients includes all clients the firm raised capital from, usually through the distribution of a product during the 2 years. Clients can be individuals or institutions and include both new clients and former clients that purchased a security during these 2 years. For these questions, please do not provide information about the number of transactions during the 2 years, but the number of unique clients that made a transaction. So if a client made more than one purchase, the answer to the question would include just the number of the clients, not the number of transactions that they made. These same two questions also ask firms to provide the dollar value of capital raised from investor clients. We would like to know the total amount of funds paid by clients for the products purchased during the 2 years. We would also like to see the gross amount, so before any fees paid and not considering any redemptions made during those 2 years. If client transactions occurred in a foreign currency, please use a reasonable exchange rate so that everything is reported in the questionnaire in Canadian dollars. The revenue question can be a tricky one for some firms that are registered in multiple categories. For example, if a firm might also be registered as an investment fund manager that does not charge commissions when they distribute one of their funds. What we are looking for is any revenue earned from the dealing activity. So if you don't track that separately for whatever reason, we ask that you provide an estimate of the revenue that would be related to your dealer activity. And then you can use the comment box at the bottom of the question to tell us how you came up with that estimated amount. When you get to questions 7 and 8 about the types of investment products the firm distributed for the 2 years ended December 31st, 2020, you will see that we would not only like information about the type of product, but whether the issuer of the product is related or connected to your firm. Links to the definitions of both related and connected issuers are included on question 9 to help you determine your firm's connection to an issuer. In question 8, we have listed a number of common industries. If it is difficult to slot your products into one of those buckets that we've included, we ask that you just use the product's main industry or one that makes sense for the type of product that you're distributing. And this question also has a comment box available to provide information for industries that might not be on our list. Toward the end of the questions, question 16, you'll see is about sales commissions earned by the firm, and there's also a question about trailing commissions earned by the firm. We often get questions about these two items, and this slide includes a basic description of what a sales commission is. And the following slide includes what a trailing commission is. Typically, a sales commission is a one-time payment to the firm, and the trailing commissions would be received by the firm on an ongoing basis. So these are some of the more questions to some of the more common areas that we receive during the risk assessment questionnaire process. However, we do have other resources available. There's an FAQ and user guide available, a help page. We've set up a dedicated email address for you to send questions, which we will respond to. And lastly, the questionnaire itself on the home page has a list of individuals you can reach out to, and they are listed by registration category. So if you have a question about the portfolio manager section, you can go to that, the people listed in that section.